Good morning. I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Courtesy resignations pour in at the president's office following his call to shake up and reset his administration.
The Senate has formally advised the House of Representatives of the impeachment court convening by June 3.
The Justice Department will ask the Foreign Affairs Department to cancel the passport of fugitive Harry Roque.
And COMELEC opens doors to election protests as losing candidates challenge Bilang Pilipino 2025 results.
Over 30 cabinet officials have expressed their intent to resign or have already submitted their courtesy resignations following the president's order. Here's the report.
The entire presidential cabinet is now at risk of being wiped out. President Bongbong Marcos has requested a courtesy resignations of all cabinet secretaries, agency heads with cabinet rank, presidential advisors, and assistants. One of the reasons behind this decision, the results of the recent Bilang Pilipino 2025 survey.
Sa kanyang paningin, nakulangan siguro ang taong bayan sa naging performance ng gobyerno, kaya hindi nila nakuha yung pinaka-target na numero, especially sa Senado.
According to the palace, there's no room in the administration for lazy or corrupt officials.
This is not about personalities. It's about performance, alignment, and urgency. Those who have delivered and continue to deliver will be recognized. But we cannot afford to be complacent. The time for comfort zones is over.
Members of the executive department quickly responded to the president's call. As of Monday night, over 30 cabinet officials have expressed intent to resign or have already submitted their courtesy resignations. Among them is Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, Tourism Secretary Cristina Frasco, and Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon were among the first to issue statements.
We all serve at the pleasure of the president, and it is a privilege to serve our nation.
As his people who he has handpicked to help him, we are duty-bound to follow that. Itong ginawa ng presidente ito, itong mensahe niya, nabasa ko yung statement ng Malacanang, hindi lang serving at the pleasure of the president. We serve at the pleasure of the people.
The president has yet to grant a formal interview on the matter, but he addressed it lightly during a speech at Malacanang earlier today.
The honorable members of the cabinet. Teka, may laman pa ba yung kabinete ko? Who am I addressing now?
Political analyst Edmund Tayao believes there may be deeper motivations behind this cabinet shakeup.
Alam mo, medyo matalinhaga yung move na yan. Ano? I mean, whether it's knee-jerk or what have you, being a president and you're talking of the whole government for that matter.
Despite the ongoing shakeup, Malacanang assures the public that government operations will not be affected. Even after tendering their courtesy resignations, officials will remain in post unless the president formally accepts their exit.
Meanwhile, a few senators expressed support over President Marcos's move to purge his cabinet. Senate President Chis Escudero views it as, quote, a mid-game substitution, a reshuffling of key players based on their performance. He thanked the president for acknowledging that there is a problem and for displaying sensitivity to the sentiments of Filipinos. Meanwhile, outgoing Senator Nancy Binay also lauded the president's decision. The new Makati City mayor is worried, though, of what the courtesy resignations could do to current government projects.
Ang concern ko is baka wag sanang maantala yung mga programa. Sana kung may tatanggapin siyang courtesy resignations, yung kapalit nandiyan na kaagad.
Some former government officials and groups in the business community have also stated their reactions.
A number of factors, no? The Iglesia vote, the Duterte votes, and also the disenchantment with the president himself because of it seems to be nothing's happening. So this is a refresh, no? You refresh everything.
We like these guys. We think they're the best people for the job. These guys are well qualified for the position, so we would be very surprised if Marcos accepted their resignations and let them go.
Let's talk about the cabinet shakeup with Assistant Professor Arjan Aguirre from the Political Science Department of the Ateneo de Manila University. Welcome back again to News and Views, Prof. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, yes, good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Well, of course, the obvious question is I'd like to know what you think about the cabinet shakeup. I mean, did you see it coming in this style of the way it was done? Traditionally, I would have expected the president just to simply root out yung mga undesirable cabinet officials. Instead, he gave everyone the opportunity to resign.
Well, first of all, we can say that this is a very loud political statement coming from the president. Political statement that is very much connected to what we have seen, with the midterm election, especially how the administration performed. So I think this is something that is connected also to his legacy. Remember, we are already approaching the second half of his political rule. And with this remaining years, I'm very sure that the president is already thinking of, having this political legacy that he plans to leave for the country. So again, this is a political statement. He wants to reassert his control. And again, one way of doing this is, of course, changing some of the main or leading figures of his cabinet. So this is something also that is connected to this perception that he is becoming a weak president. So this is something that is also supported by studies abroad that whenever you have a weak president, the usual thing that happens is reallocating the cabinet portfolio.
So,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Professor Edmund Taya was here yesterday, and we also talked about this, and he said there might be a deeper motive or bigger motive behind this. Do you share the same sentiment? And what message, aside from what you said earlier, do you think about this shakeup in the cabinet secretaries?
Yes, I totally agree with that view because another way to say of looking at this political response is, this is something that is also connected to the ongoing, political feud. So I think the president wants to, respond to what the Duterte faction is, having these days. They also gained so much, politically speaking. And I think with this cabinet shuffling or reallocating, the portfolio, the president wants to, send this message also to the people that I'm still, the president, and I'm still, having so much control. Again, that's my thinking also, that this is also connected to the political feud.
Yeah, Prof, kasi si President Bongbong Marcos also said something, I don't know the exact how to phrase it, about being feared, na hindi daw siya kinakatakutan. Do you think he's pointing to some key officials in the cabinet not respecting his authority, for him to say that and to show, use this as an example? Hey, you're not fearing me, this is what I can do. Because let's face it, President Bongbong Marcos, everyone knows him as not a weak leader, but rather a leader who takes his time, who's calculated, who is calm.
Non-combative.
Yeah, non-confrontational, as many people, are saying. So, in connection to what I have mentioned earlier, perhaps we can also assume that many of his cabinet, secretaries, again, they are also connected din sa previous administration. So, may mga holdover secretaries tayo. So, you cannot, blame him if he thinks that way, that there are, perhaps at the level of secretaries, USEC level, even ASECs, meron pa ring mga nagsusupport or nagsisympathize to sa karibal na faction.
Okay, so earlier we've shown also yung mga reactions from different business community sectors, no?
Yeah.
And one said, if I'm not mistaken, gusto nila yung ibang nandoon and somehow siguro nanghihinayang sila. But who do you think yung among those cabinet secretaries ang talagang parang no, parang American Idol, ang malalaglag at magsistay?
Guess lang, just say guess.
Based on their performances, of course.
Well, I'd like to highlight that many of our cabinet secretaries nowadays are really doing well. Like for example, defense.
Yeah.
The defense secretary Gilbert Chodoro deserves our commendation for doing a good job in handling the situation
That's
in the West Philippine Sea. The new secretary of transportation, Vince
Yeah.
Dizon. Many people are happy. They welcome this appointment of Secretary Dizon. DSWD also. We can also mention Secretary Gatchalian. Yun nga I agree that many of the secretaries nowadays are doing their job well. But I suspect talaga that this cabinet shuffling is just a political message, and I'm very sure that majority of the current secretaries will be retained. If in fact nakikita ko rin, nasa-sense ko rin na some of them will be promoted. Meron mga mag-e-exit. I'm not supposed to mention their names, pero may mga mag-e-exit for sure. Ito yung mga secretaries na hindi talaga nag-perform, or pwede nating sabihin na pwedeng meron din silang connection to sa previous administration. Again, this is one of the things that I'd like to mention here in this conversation, na connected po ito sa political feud, connected po ito sa midterm elections, and again, one of the things that I think the President will consider is kung yung secretary ba niya ngayon ay loyal pa rin sa kanya. So I think pwede rin natin itong tingnan as loyalty check among his secretaries.
Parang alam ko na prof yung sinasabi mong connected.
Pero
I'd like go ahead.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned po about Secretary Gibot Teodoro of the Defense, because when we talk about defense, ang unang isip natin dyan West Philippine Sea. And yun nga po, kasi some people would say na maganda or aligned naman yung foreign policy ng administrasyon na ito pagdating sa fight natin sa West Philippine Sea. But then again, it didn't translate doon sa mga senador na nanalo, na alam naman natin most of doon sa mga nanalo ay from the Duterte bloc, which is also medyo sumaside sa China. So baka meron ding ganun na sinasabi nila disconnect.
Yeah, yun nga baka nakulangan ng ating presidente sa yung pagde-deliver ng ibang mga secretaries regarding sa mga issues of the day. So for example, sa education, masasabi natin na maganda yung naging performance ni Secretary Angara. So siguro nag-complement dito yung naging platform or programa rin ng mga nanalo senador like Senator Bam Aquino. So siguro yung pwede natin explanation doon is that marahil naging busy yung iba niyang cabinet secretary sa pagtutok sa mga issues of the day, tapos nakulangan siguro sa pagko-communicate nito sa mga tao. So I think ito yung naging response din ng ating Pangulo with this decision, di ba, to have his blog, yung kanyang recent na way para makakonect sa tao.
Well, this could, I'd like to ask also, Prof, na moving forward, since this is the second half of his administration, and we all know in every Philippine administration na walang re-election ng presidente, this is what we call the lame duck stage. So, do you think this is the President's way of trying to balance out what may happen given yung shake-up sa Senate na mukhang balance na ang Senate? So, he's putting in people na hopefully he might put in people that might be friendlier with some of the incoming senators in the hopes na legislation gets passed.
Yeah, again, itong cabinet shuffling na to, it's a political tool. Do not forget, this is a political tool that the president has. So maraming mukha ito. It's a multifaceted political strategy. Pwede niya itong gamitin to influence legislation. He will put there, people who are sabihin nating friendly sa mga legislators. Pwede niya rin itong gamitin to defend himself against attacks, which is nakita natin na nangyayari ngayon. Pwede rin itong gamitin ng ating presidente to change the political discourse. Remember, binanggit ko kanina, we are already approaching the end of his term. So legacy, pinag-usapan natin dito legacy. So again, this is something that is surprising for many, but to me, itong cabinet shuffling na to, part ito talaga ng kanyang power, and I think he's doing something that is connected to this, yung political strategizing.
Right.
Dagdag ko lang, you mentioned Angara as one of the top performing cabinet officials. How about tourism? She's linked to, Cristina Frasco is linked to the Dutertes.
The current secretary, pwede nating sabihin na connected siya. Actually, connected pa siya sa dating presidente nga na si former President Arroyo. Pwede nating sabihin na na political appointee because of connection dun sa kanyang mga loyalty in the past, tapos connected din siya sa Garcia ng Cebu. Pero na-prove naman siguro nila yung loyalty nila with this recent election, 'di ba? Yung kanyang mother, 'di ba, naging loyal pa rin sa Marcos regime. So, yun yung isang point na pwede kong ma-highlight dito. And sa kanyang performance naman, we can say that the current secretary is also doing a good job. So, yun yung aking dito, yung nakikita.
Ayun na nga, kasi sabi nga nila, yung cabinet shakeup is not uncommon anymore, no? Kumbaga, nagagawa naman na to or nagawa na to ng ibang mga past presidents natin. Pero why do you think parang na-highlight ito yesterday, most specifically? Is it because, yun nga, dahil sa napag-usapan natin, hindi naman talaga, non-confrontational ito si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. At hindi, parang ang in-expect lang natin sa kanya, kung magpapalit siya, parang tahimik lang, di ba?
Okay, this is something for many people, something unprecedented din kasi nga in the past we have seen, previous presidents din na nagko-call for cabinet reshuffling pero partial lang, 'di ba? So parang a portion lang of the whole cabinet. Pero ito lahat he was requesting all of them. In fact, even yung USEC level, ASEC, ako tinitignan ko kung ano mangyayari diyan. Kasi remember, these are political appointees. So some of them were chosen because of their political loyalty. Others naman, they were chosen because of their expertise, yung mga technocrats.
Yeah.
So yung current composition kasi ngayon, masasabi natin na mix So merong mga magagaling talaga, chosen because of their expertise, skills, experience. Meron din mga political appointees. I think itong move na ito is, pwedeng sabihin natin connected do sa mga political appointees. So kayo ba ay sa akin or do sa kabila? So nag-perform ba kayo na maayos o hindi? So yun yung aking dyan, nakikita.
Do we also see a shift? Do you think, Prof, we'll see a shift in the demeanor of the president? No more Mr. Nice Guy. I mean, he's been... let's face it, a lot of his supporters were saying, you're being bullied too much by the other side. Bakit di ka sumasagot? And I think that cost him a lot of points also as being weak. Do you see a shift in his demeanor this next 3 years?
Perhaps he'll be more vocal or perhaps more communicative when it comes to what he thinks about, what he senses about the situation. In the past kasi nakita natin na he tends to shy away from interviews or interactions with the media. So the appointment of Secretary Castro,
exactly.
To me, so welcoming development na siguro dun sa mga hard-hitting questions kay Secretary Castro yon, pero dun sa mga mas sabi nating ma-handle ng mga conversations kay President Marcos yun. So this time magiging mas visible siya. Makikita natin na with this decision to come up with this vlogging approach, mas magkakaroon siya ng interaction with the people, and I think he will really need that, especially for the second half of his political rule. Pambawi ito ito, especially do sa naging performance ng first half na nagkaroon siya ng political foe or rival na talagang very powerful, very popular. And I think yun yung naging consideration din niya kung bakit niya ito ginagawa recently.
Do you also agree with others, kung may mga analyst na na-observe nila na may mali daw sa messaging, sa communication ng administrasyon na ito?
May mali in the sense that may mga contradictions. Meron sila sinasabi, tapos iba yung ginagawa. Tapos ako marami akong nakitang gano'n na kunwari sinabi ng presidente na hindi siya makikialam sa impeachment o kaya ayaw niya na impeachment pero yung mga kaalyado niya ginagawa yung ganito. So I expect for the second half magkakaroon ng consistency. If he really doesn't want the other faction, I mean he really must say it. I mean, directly to the people. Kung bakit di siya nag-agree, kung bakit, he rejects, kung ano man yung ano. Tapos recently, di ba, nag-statement din siya na handa siya makipag-ayos. To me, pwede rin natin tingnan ito sa ploy na yun nga, perhaps nag-gather, nagmamaster pa sila ng enough resources para for the second half, makabawi sila or masigurado na ma-accomplish nila yung political goals nila. Kasi obviously sa ngayon, masasabi ko na mukhang naging complacent sila especially with the thought na na-occupy nila yung mga key positions sa government tapos yung house hawak din nila. Hindi nila nakita na yung popularity ng karibal nila like the Dutertes mukhang makaka-apekto sa kanilang political future. At ito na yung future na tinitingnan nila, the second half. So, yun yung aking dito, nakikita.
Well, Prof, let's also remember, he never said naman na reconciliation with the Dutertes, It could mean a lot of things given that you also have the two Dilaws and the Pink supposedly coming back into the top 5 of the Senate. It could mean a lot of things. In connection with that, this is what I wanted to ask you now. In the first 3 years, there are a lot of expectations from the Pink and the Yellows that they will not be happy with what PBBM would be doing. They were proven wrong. In other words, parang na-disarm ang mga Yellows and Pinks in a sense na most of his policies were very similar to the late President Benigno Aquino. So, now do you expect PBBM to more push on policies that are similar to that of his father to recapture the supposed Northern Bloc, who are also confused by his style of leadership?
Well, I'd like to think that the president will still remain. I mean, like that. He has no choice. Many of the problems nowadays are connected talaga dun sa mga sabi nating lack of measures, lack of programs. And I think that the president is well advised also by the people who are part of his cabinet din.
Yes.
So yun yung aking dito. He has no choice but to pursue the better policies, better laws na dapat natin makuha. And nagkataon lamang na ito yung mga na pinupush ng liberal forces. So I think magtutuloy-tuloy ito.
Well, abangan pa rin natin dahil hanggang ngayon wala pa naman tayo nakikitang mga new appointees or reappointments. So,
and we'll still be talking to Prof for the next 3 years before the next election.
Thank you so much.
Let's hope for the best.
Let's hope for the best. That's right.
That's right. Thank you so much for your time, Assistant Professor Arjan Aguirre of the Ateneo de Manila University. A member of the House prosecution panel says they are now 90% ready for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Here's the report.
On Thursday, House prosecutors began discussing preparations for the historic trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
We resumed our meeting after the elections and we discussed the letter of the Senate President sent to the House of Representatives that we will present the articles of impeachment on June 2 before the Senate. I guess we will present the articles of impeachment during their session.
As stipulated in the rules of procedure, the House prosecution panel has to present to the upper chamber the articles of impeachment. Senate proposed to do this on June 2 at 4 in the afternoon. House Prosecutor Bel Zamora said 5 to 10 law firms are helping them with the trial. And at this point, they are 90% ready.
A little exciting for us, I guess, na matutuloy na. We've had a mock trial before. We prepared judicial affidavits for the witnesses. We examined witnesses. We're reviewing all of the documentary evidence that we already have on hand.
By June 3, the Senate will convene as impeachment court. Pre-trial is set to begin by June 24 until July 25, while the impeachment trial proper is expected to start by July 30. VP Duterte earlier said she is ready for the impeachment trial.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. The Commission on Elections calls on those who raise election fraud allegations to present solid evidence. Here's a report.
Over 100 boxes containing 13,000 affidavits were submitted to the Electoral Contest Adjudication Department of the Commission on Elections. These were filed by the camp of Maylene Pineda-Cayabyab, the losing mayoral candidate in San Fernando City, Pampanga. Voters claimed discrepancies between their actual votes and the printed receipts from the automated counting machines.
Merong misappreciation ng kanilang mga ballots when they fed the ballot, iba yung nagre-reflect, no? Tapos yung iba naman merong mga pre-shaded. We believe na hindi nare-reflect dun sa eleksyon yung tunay na boto ng mga Fernandinos.
Pineda-Cayabyab from the influential Pineda political family lost to incumbent Mayor Vilma Caluwag by over 78,000 votes.
Sa maniwala at sa hindi, 239 clustered precincts. Ni isang presinto walang ipinanalo. Despite the vigorous campaign that we have mounted, that is one thing na unbelievable. Highly improbable.
Cebu City Mayor Michael Rama also questioned the results after losing by over 136,000 votes to winner Nestor Arquival.
Yung number ko usually, as it is being presented, ito 200,000 yun. Abot na nga ng 300,000. Bakit ang ending 120 lang? Tsaka optics, lahat ng mga activities, rallies, pumunta pa si Sara doon, ang daming tao. Ibig sabihin, pag eleksyon nawala yung tao.
The COMELEC said they welcome electoral protests which follow the proper legal process. but they acknowledge that filing an election protest is costly, covering filing fees, ballot box access, and required documents. In response to allegations of pre-shaded ballots, COMELEC challenged complainants to present solid evidence.
Kung meron po, sure na hindi sa COMELEC. Kasi nakalampas po yan sa quality control natin. Yan po yung tinransport, yan po yung tumigil 1-2 araw o ilang araw sa opisina ng treasurer. So hindi na po namin custody yon kung biglang nagkaroon ng pre-shading.
Losing candidates may file election protests within 10 days after the proclamation of the winning bet. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, we are One News.
Let's discuss this issue further with COMELEC spokesperson Attorney John Rex Laujanco. Attorney, thank you for joining us.
Magandang umaga po, Sir Angelo, Ma'am Angela, and to all the viewers of News and Views. Good morning po.
Ayun po, sir, paano po ba masisigurado ng COMELEC na itong mga serious claims po na ballot na to, ng mga discrepancies, ay maipepresent po no, sa pag sila po ay nag-file ng election protest?
Tama po, isa po kasi sa mga kinakailangan na allegation sa isang election protest ay ituro kung saan po yung pinocontest nila ng mga clustered precincts. Ituro kung alin ballot boxes yung nais nilang mabuksan para may pakita yung claims nila. Sinusuportahan dapat ng mga ebidensya at ibang mga testimonya. Yun po yung purpose. At ang mangyayari po dito sa unang bahagi ng election protest, kung mabibigyan po ito ng pagkakataon, magkakaroon po ng pilot precincts o yung test pilot precincts na merong ilang steps na bubuksan, titignan kung merong marirecover tulad ng sinasabi po ng ating protestant, at kung wala, madidismiss naman. Kung meron, ay maaring ipagpapatuloy ang pagbubukas ng lahat ng ballot boxes na kinokontest nila.
Attorney, how about yung issue ng pre-shading? Narinig ko rin yung sagot ni Chairman George na kung may pre-shading daw nangyari, hindi daw sa hanay ng COMELEC na yon because nag-change na daw ng to the Treasury. Is that correct? So will COMELEC be taking a look at this possible issue?
Una po sa lahat, tama po yung sinabi ni Chairman Garcia ayon sa batas natin po kasi ang kustodya ng mga balota pagkatapos po lumabas sa kamay ng COMELEC mula sa National Printing Office ay diretso sa mga treasurer. Sila rin po ang nagdi-distribute nito sa mga teachers at yung ballot boxes na may lamang balota ay babalik muli sa custody ng mga teacher. At isa lang po sa bagay na pinagtataka namin doon sa claim ng pre-shading. Pag tayo po ay botante, inabutan po tayo ng balota. Ang una natin tinitignan ay kung may dumi, may sulat, may shading ang balota. Paano po nangyari na merong claim ngayon ng pre-shading na wala po tayong natatanggap na reklamo? Wala ring nakanote sa minutes. Parang napaka-imposible naman po. Ako, tingin ko po personally, pag ako'y tumanggap ng isang balota na may shade na, medyo violent yung reaction ko dahil hindi papayag ang isang botante na ganyan. Right. And yet, merong anecdotal claims na pagkatapos bumoto, saka sasabihin na meron pong pre-shading. Medyo mahirap naman po yata. Anyway, hindi namin ito po binabaliwala. Sabi lang po namin pakilagay sa kanilang mga election protest.
For context lang po, attorney, para po sa kaalaman ng ating viewers, yung sinasabi po ninyo na minutes na manggagaling po sa electoral board members. Paki-explain po yun.
Ang minutes po kasi ay isang requirement ng ating proseso ng pagboto kung saan itinatala lahat ng pangyayari doon sa naganap ng pagbubukas ng presinto, botohan hanggang sa makatapos po sila magbilang. In fact, requirement po na lahat ng insidente ay dapat ma-note dyan sa minutes. Meron pa nga po pangyayari dyan na kung sakasakaling may magko-contest. Ito, katulad niyan, pre-shading. Katulad nung sinasabi po na magkaiba, hindi nagtugma yung resibo sa binutuhan, dapat po yan i-note sa minutes at susumpaan nung mismo nagkiklaim. Pwede pong pumirma yung mga watchers sa paligid bilang patunay na witness nila doon sa mga pangyayari. Pero kita niyo po, wala po kaming nakikitang ganyan na isinusumite sa COMELEC.
So doon po sa may reklamo ng mga areas po na nagsasabi na may mga pre-shaded na po na ballots, wala po dong nakalagay sa minutes from the electoral board members na may ganitong insidente. And which areas po ba yon?
At wala po kaming natatanggap dyan. Alam niyo po, ang mga teachers po natin aware sa roles and duties nila. At alam po natin na mga teachers hindi rin papayag na mangyayari sa presinto nila na makakwestiyon pati credibility nila. Definitely kung may nangyari pong ganyan, sila ay magre-report sa amin. Bukod pa sa pag-note sa minutes. Pero tignan niyo po, wala kaming nai-record na ganyang insidente. At meron nga po nangyari. Akong napanood sa isang newscast na merong nagkiklaim na botante sa labas ng presinto. Bas, napilitan po sumagot yung teacher na, kung merong ganyan, ba't hindi mo sinabi sa amin? Bakit makatapos ka bumoto paglabas ng presinto? Tsaka mo sasabihin may free shading. So nakikita niyo po, alam ng mga teachers ang kanilang mga trabaho at tungkulin.
Okay, may sinabi po kasi si former Mayor Michael Rama, no? At sinabi po niya, isa po dun sa kanyang mga nirereklamo na noong daw campaign, ang daming pumupunta, tapos yung kinalabasan ng voter turnout po dun sa kanilang area ay mababa lamang. So isa din po yun sa kanyang mga inirereklamo.
Tandaan po natin, may kalayaan po ang bawat botante na magpasa at yung pong pagdalo sa mga campaign sorties ay hindi nangangahulugan na automatically translated, one, into participation into the election, and two, votes for the one who conducted the political sortie.
Right.
Hindi naman po automatic kung ganun yun. Otherwise po, wag na tayo mag-eleksyon. Mag-political sorties na lang po tayo, mag-campaign sorties na lang po tayo. Alam niyo po, ito po isa siguro na dapat nating ipakadiin sa ating mga kababayan po. Ano? Ang pagpapasya sa kung sino iboboto at hindi boboto, nasa botante lamang po yan. Siya at ang Diyos lamang po nakakaalam at dapat makakita ng balota niya. Kaya kung ano po ang resulta niyan, dapat po nating tanggapin talaga.
Okay, I'd like to take this opportunity also, no, Attorney, to ask you about yung issue sa, well, we have yung Duterte Youth and yung BH party list. We interviewed the other day, I think si Cardema, no, si Chairman Cardema ng Duterte Youth, and he said na how come 4 hours bago yung actual proclamation lang sila sinabihan about the actual suspension of the proclamation, when sana sinabi daw sa kanila ahead para at least man lang they could have prepared a written counter to that possible suspension na ihahatay nyo sa kanila.
Una po sa lahat, yung pong pagkakabasa ng resolution doon po sa proclamation date ay siya mismo pong tinatawag natin na promulgation ng resolution. Doon po unang na-made public ang resolution na yan at binasa sa buong mundo para mag-witness. Kaya po yun po yung kauna-unahang notice po talaga na malalaman nating lahat na ito nga po yung naging desisyon ng National Board of Canvassers. At any rate po, medyo immaterial po kasi kung hindi mo nalaman kagad o nalaman kagad. Ang importante po, nung na-promulgate yung resolution, na ipaalam sa ating lahat. At nagkaroon po sila ng pagkakataon ng ito po, kumilos, dalhin kami sa Supreme Court. At ang sinasabi nga po namin, ito, malinaw po ito. Hindi sila natalo, nakatanggap sila ng sapat na boto para makakuha ng upuan. Ngunit merong mga legal na issues na si Realmich po ay na-acknowledge po nila. It's a matter of record. Hindi nila itinatanggi na since 2019 ay pending pa po ito. At sabi nga po namin, siguro ito na yung sapat na panahon. Regardless kung matagal na yan, i-resolve na natin. Then finally, we could dispose the case. Ano man po ang resulta, ma-dismiss yan, na-proclaim sila. Hindi nila matanggap ang resulta, makaakyat sa Supreme Court.
So kailan po kaya, attorney, daw magkakaroon ng resolution tong issue?
Ay pangako po ni Chairman Garcia, bago po mag-noon ng June 30 ay kailangan i-resolve. In fact, ito po ay pag-uutos sa buong COMELEC na resolbahin kagad. Nang sa gayon naman po, ay magkaroon nga po ng remedies naman ang anumang grupo, whether payagan na sila or umakyat sa Supreme Court.
Yun nga po eh. But with regard to the statement of Bagong Henerasyon Party List, sila naman po ay nagsasabi na wala daw po silang idea doon sa complaint or doon sa case na naka-file against sa kanila.
Tama din naman po yun kasi ang pagkakadinig ko nga po ay isasama nila yan sa kanilang mga depensa at pagsagot sa kaso. Ito po sana ang tamang pagkakataon, yung tanggapin na merong kaso, sumagot sa legal na proseso at tignan po natin ano po ang magiging desisyon. Talaga naman po dapat kilalanin natin na may legal na proseso at yun din po sana ang inihiling namin, hindi lang sa dalawang party list kundi pati po dun sa ibang mga local candidates na nakatanggap din ng suspension of proclamation. May pangako naman po si Chairman Garcia na i-resolve po lahat ito sa lalong madaling panahon.
Alright, with that, maraming salamat po muli sa inyong oras, COMELEC spokesperson, Attorney John Rex Taulianco.
Maraming salamat po.
Meantime, the Justice Department has dismissed former President Rodrigo Duterte's complaints against government officials. That's over the arrest of religious leader Apollo Kibuloy in Davao City. The complaints were filed against Police Chief Romel Marbil, former Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos, and 7 other police officers. The DOJ said there was insufficient evidence to prove that the police intentionally damaged the Kingdom of Jesus Christ property during the operation. It also clarified that the police were merely executing a valid arrest warrant and did not violate domicile laws.
The Office of the Ombudsman orders Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia to explain her failure to heed its earlier suspension order. It also sought an explanation from the Interior Department why it has yet to implement the suspension. Garcia is accused of granting a special permit to a firm without an environmental compliance certificate from the Environment Department. She ran for a third consecutive 3-year term as Cebu Governor, but she lost to Pamela Baricuatro. Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
All right, a Philippine vessel sailing near Pag-asa Island was bombarded with water cannon, rammed and dangerously shadowed by a Chinese Coast Guard ship. Here's a report.
Chinese Coast Guard vessel number 21559. This is MMOB 3002. BRP Dato Sanday.
This was the tense moment on board BRP Datu Sanday when a Chinese vessel unleashed a relentless water cannon attack near Pag-asa Island in the West Philippine Sea. The force of the blast was enough to send metallic echoes across the hull of the Philippine vessel. Despite repeated radio calls from the Philippine Coast Guard, the Chinese ship did not back down.
Your unsafe maneuvers are in clear violation of your obligations for safe conduct under the 1972 International Regulations.
The collision damaged the port bow and smokestack of the Philippine vessel. Structural cracks and dents were also documented on board. The incident occurred on May 21 during a legitimate maritime scientific research mission by the BRP Datu Sanday and BRP Datu Pagbuaya around Sandy Cay 2. This marks the first time the BRP Datu Sanday has been targeted by water cannon attacks since China hoisted its flag in the area. Despite the aggression, the PCG says it will not resort to China's tactics.
It does not have any strategic gain on our part kung gagayahin natin sila. We just have to maintain our moral high ground, that we are law abider.
In a statement, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources confirmed that despite interference in hostile maneuvers, the research mission was successfully completed across Pag-asa Case 1, 2, and 3.
2025 dialogue on ASEAN maritime security is now on its third day. For the details, let's bring in mobile journalist Mary Monreyes live from Pasay City. Merimon.
Good morning, Angelo and Angela. So far on the last leg of the 2025 ASEAN dialogue on ASEAN maritime security, kompleto na yung dignitaries, diplomats, representatives, even maritime scientists, and the next generation leaders from the 10 member states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN. So kompleto dito from Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, and even the Philippines, which is the hosting country for this one, Singapore, and Thailand. And so far, this event organized by the NGO, We Protect Our Seas in partnership with the Philippine Coast Guard and the National Maritime Council, this hopes to uphold a dialogue or an avenue wherein member states of the ASEAN would have the opportunity to speak on issues without the influence of power states, which are, kasi wala dito yung US and wala rin tayong representative dito from China. Pero nung nakausap natin si Commodore J. Tariela, spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, there will be no pointing of fingers and no ganging up against countries, but only a platform to voice out the concerns, opinion, and possibly to bring out, kasi by the end of this week, they are hoping to bring out data-driven recommendations. And since we're just 2 days or 3 days before the ASEAN Summit scheduled in Malaysia this May 26 to 27, potentially mapag-uusapan din ulit ito doon mismo sa bansa. And so far, issues or topics na natakal na dito as of yesterday is number 1, upholding the freedom of navigation but without harming the peace, the order, and security of the coastal states. Yung ilan sa mga napag-usapan pa nga dito, according kay Atty. Freddy Ganchon, our Senior State Counsel of the Philippines, yung 9-dash line nga ng People's Republic of China, it overlaps and encroaches on the maritime zones and coastal states on the South China Sea. Pero hindi raw valid yung overlapping claim na to dahil hindi naman consistent ito with the UNCLOS. And nasabi na pag-usapan nga, if magkakaroon daw ng negotiations on this one, especially kung mayroong overlapping states, particularly lalo na kung may claimant states doon sa South China Sea, kailangan daw ng ground rules which are found doon nga sa UNCLOS or the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. At na-bring up din kahapon yung overfishing naman na nagiging reason kung bakit yung fish stock management naobserbahan na bumababa ng araw yung biodiversity, hindi lang ng mga isda, even ng mga coral reefs, which Dr. Charina Lynn Amedo Repolyo from the Marine Science Institute of the UP recommends na magkaroon ng collaborative effort or cooperation across regions or states para raw masiguro na hindi nga maaabuso ang biodiversity. And they are also calling out for public awareness and education, transboundary cooperation, marine scientific research, para hindi lang naman daw kasi ito just a matter of legalities, international law, rules-based order, or rule of law. It's more on really establishing yung common sense of consciousness across ASEAN nations. And for today, ngayon ongoing pa doon sa loob yung unang panel discussion, and it's focused on the countering disinformation, confidence-building measures, risk reduction and dispute resolution, law enforcement at sea for regional Coast Guard cooperation. And this is, ang nandiyan na panels natin sa loob ay si National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya, Dr. Chong Jaian from the National University of Singapore, Commodore J. Tariela from Philippine Coast Guard, and Dr. Trisha Yeo from the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. And so far, medyo nagkakaroon nga dito ng common sentiment na there is really the need to establish communication and education across all sectors, across all countries and states. Hindi lang daw para maintindihan nila kung ano nga ba yung nangyayari sa kanilang partikular na bansa, kundi kung paano nito posible maapektuhan din yung relasyon nila sa ibang bansa, especially when it comes to territorial disputes such as those na currently na i-experience natin dito with the presence of the Chinese conducting unauthorized maritime research, plus ito nga kanilang pagwa-water cannon still around Sandy Cays 1 and 2. Pero later on, pagkatapos itong kanilang panel discussions, we'll try to get more insights naman from the National Security Council and potentially from the Philippine Coast Guards kung ano nga ba yung next steps nila regarding this. Balik sa inyo.
Meron mo siguro isang tanong na lang, nabanggit ba nila, or yun nga, nabanggit mo rin nga pala kanina, na napag-usapan din dyan yung tungkol dun sa ilang mga concerns natin dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Particularly, ito nga nangyari nga yesterday. Yeah. And several incidents that happened years ago pa rin. Ano yung naging tugon, nung ating mga ASEAN members dyan tungkol doon?
So far, what is happening ngayon kasi is yung pinaka-sharing pa lang nila. Yung magiging actionable recommendations nila, potentially we'll find out later pagka natapos na ito or maybe sa mga susunod na araw. And since magkakaroon nga nung ASEAN Summit sa Malaysia, baka mas magkaroon ngayon ng in-depth resolutions regarding this. Kasi yung isa sa tinitignan din nila ngayon, base rin sa mga nakausap natin, there are still problems daw persisting in operationalizing regional and maritime security. So it's agreed upon across them, sa nakausap natin na si Miss Bryn Isaac, the ASEAN is not yet united when it comes to talking about the South China Sea. And yun nga ang nakita nila dito, potentially baka dahil daw doon sa perceived lack of good faith and adherence to historical claims ng China. And yung ASEAN's consensus-based approach kasi medyo may hinder pa raw nito yung geopolitical development. So we'll find out later kung paano nga ba ano nga ba yung middle ground na kanilang gagawin kasi nga sa mga nakausap natin medyo nagkakaroon pa ng hatian dito. And yung pinag-uusapan nga na rules-based order, international law, the UNCLOS, isa-isa pa lang ito, ninitpick pa lang talaga nila yung kanilang mga perception dito. So maybe later on, we'll find out muna kung ano nga ba yung magiging conclusion nila after the 3-day dialogue.
Alright, maraming salamat sa iyong oras, mobile journalist Merimon Reyes, live from Pasay City. Now, some areas may experience rains in the next 24 hours. Luzon, including Metro Manila and Visayas, may expect isolated rains. That's due to the easterlies or warm and moist winds. Mindanao, meanwhile, is expected to experience scattered rains due to the ITCZ. That's the convergence of winds coming from the north and south hemispheres. Due to continuous downpour, some landslides incidents were reported in Zamboanga del Sur. Authorities are now conducting clearing operations.
Marinduke is putting the spotlight on its homegrown Marinduke native pig, a local breed gaining attention for its distinct quality. Its meat is reportedly more tender and its skin crispier when roasted as lechon. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho with the story.
Hindi maikakailang guilty pleasure nating mga Pinoy ang lechon dahil sa malutong nitong balat at malambot na laman. Samahan mo pa ng masarap na sarsa. Pero may ile-level up pa raw yan.
Kung ang Japan may Wagyu beef, dito sa Pilipinas, partikular sa probinsya ng Marinduque, sikat naman ang Marinduque native pig. Kilala ito dahil sa high quality meat na perfect daw para sa iba't ibang putahe, kabilang ang lechon.
The Marinduque pig actually is our Philippine native pig that we improved a little bit through organized breeding and selection.
Ayon sa kanila, mas maganda ang marbling at mas malutong ang balat ng Marinduque at ang mga enhanced characteristics na yan naging posible dahil sa tinatawag na closed nucleus breeding system. Dito sinasala ang mga may pinakamagandang characteristics mula rin sa ating mga native pig.
And we already have the population of what we call the pigs that met the criteria or our set criteria for quality. Kasi yung mga breeder animals that we will be choosing to become parents of the next generation will all be coming from the same group.
Pero bakit pa nga ba magbe-breed ng panibago kung may native pigs naman na?
Because of the lack of breeding and selection, their performance are very unpredictable. Napaka-wide nung kanilang variability or differences. That's why mahirap siyang gamitin if you are targeting to build an enterprise.
Kung ihahambing kasi ang dalawa, di hamak daw na mas maganda ang kalidad ng Marinduque native pig. Isa na dyan ang marbling na karaniwang nakikita sa beef.
We also think because the marbled thing there is fat, baka yung nagdadagdag din siya ng flavor. Mas malutong yung balat ng lechon.
Bukod sa consistent quality, hindi rin maselang alagaan at paramihin ang Marinduque native pig. Mas mabilis din kasi itong palakihin. Sa loob ng 4 hanggang 5 buwan, fully grown na raw ito.
Kaya para hindi mahihirapan at hindi gagastos ng malaki yung ating mga farmers who would adopt.
Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang pag-aaral sa Marinduque native pig at umaasa ang ating mga researcher na mapapalago nito ang ating native swine industry sa kabila ng mga hamong kinakaharap nito sa kasalukuyan. Mobile Journal Denise Valdesancho po, hatid ang mukha ng balita.
Sarap. Pwedeng eterno dito.
Go!
Buddha's Belly. Maraming salamat kay Marjorie Tan ng Buddha's Belly.
Oh, it's a Friday.
Ating Friday feast.
Since it's a Friday, every Friday we have a feast care of our friends, sila Marjorie.
Yes.
Buddha's Belly. All right. And with that, before we let you go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. The weekend is a time to recharge your soul and to be grateful for the blessings that you have. Unknown. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again on Monday. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.